Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Jessica and today I'm here to talk to you about the 5 connections between catamenial epilepsy and the liver and the gallbladder. I have been living with epilepsy now for 6 years. Started in the spring of 2019. I had partial seizures for once a month up until September, and that's when I had the first grand mal seizure with the partial seizure leading up to it, or the aura. Until then, I didn't know that partial seizures existed. When I went to the hospital, they gave me rescue meds and sent me on my way. So for a year following once a month, I would have a partial seizure every month. And that next year, September 2020, I had 3 grand mal seizures in one day. So I had to go to the hospital and get rescue meds once again. This time, they held me in observation for 2 days and hooked me up to EEGs and gave me an MRI. They told me that they found nothing wrong with my brain. And when the team of neurologists came in, I was questioning them and I said, so what kind of seizures do I have? Are they temporal lobe seizures? Are they catamenial epilepsy seizures? Because at that point, I understood that there were different kinds of seizures, but I wasn't really sure exactly which kind were mine that I was having. And they told me just to take this drug. And since it was 3 seizures in one day, I can understand why they gave me such a strong medication to try to prevent that from happening again. I took that medication for about 1 month, and it was very unbearable. And I still had a breakthrough seizure. So I quit taking the medications. And that's when I kept researching. And I couldn't research when I was on that medication either. So I didn't want to be taking something that would prevent me from being able to research. I felt like I was finding some pretty amazing things. So I have gone through stages of having worse episodes and better episodes, but I have studied so many different things, and I have a lot of different studies, and I have 3 ring binders that are 3 inches thick. I have 2 of those with all of the research that I have, as well as digital formats and digital files of research. Now, I am a hairdresser, and so I've studied psychology, I've studied anatomy, but I've gone beyond and studied these things out of interest even before having seizures. And so when I started having the seizures, it just pushed me further into understanding the mechanisms that make seizures work. And so I even studied seizure medications to understand all the different mechanisms that they're using to try to stop seizures. And that's very fascinating in itself. And I've studied Chinese medicine and homeopathy. Now, the first connection between liver and catamenial epilepsy is that the liver controls 500 different vital functions in the human body. But the one I particularly want to focus on today is hormones. The liver is in control of hormones, especially related to a female's menstrual cycle. And so the connection is you can have, and this is only from my experience, is having PMS-like symptoms of irritability, anxiety, insomnia, bloating, leading up to period. So that's the first connection. The second connection is headaches and tight shoulders, specifically on your right side. There is a nerve that runs right through the liver and the gallbladder up into the shoulder. And so having pain in that shoulder and headaches on this right side of the head is an indication that there's a problem with the liver, and not like a Western medical problem. So not really something that you need a Western doctor for, because Western doctors are really only going to fix a problem once it's become a problem. They're not going to do preventative things to prevent a problem that's coming. They're only looking for an extreme problem. So these tight tension shoulders and headaches are not improved from massage. In fact, it can inflame that nerve and make it even worse. And what I was noticing is I was having that tightness in my right shoulder a few days leading up to a partial seizure or a seizure. And I was putting those things together. So there is a organ massage. I know this sounds kind of weird, but under your right rib cage, you press in and you massage, and that's your gallbladder, and there can become a buildup of sludge in the gallbladder. Now, women are more prone to gallbladder stones because estrogen causes more gallbladder stones. So the sludge needs to be massaged out. Now, that's an immediate thing you can do, more of a direct fix, but it's not like going to help you long term. We'll talk about that later. There was a acupuncturist that I was going to, and I was having this pain in the top of my right foot. So before I went to the chiropractor, I started researching points on the top of the foot and found the one that I thought it was connected to, and it was a gallbladder point. When I looked up this particular gallbladder point and studies done, there were studies with a functional MRI that they would put a needle in that specific point and stimulate it, and then do a functional MRI, and they had another person who had a placebo. And the one that had the acupuncture needle in stimulated the auditory sensor in the brain. Same place that I was having my seizures. There was another connection in the leg that was associated with the visual cortex, and they actually did the same study, and they found the connection between the visual cortex as well. Now, the fourth thing I wanted to talk about is nutrition in Chinese medicine and diet. So when we eat the typical American diet, very salty, it's very fatty, we're even just eating raw food all the time. The thing you want to focus on is eating nourishing foods that calm the liver down. So cooked vegetables, cooked stews, bone broth, scrambled eggs. So I was eating freeze-dried blueberries, which was making my situation worse. The blueberry, I've studied antioxidants too. The blueberry is really helpful. That specific antioxidant was helping me prevent seizures. But having them in a dehydrated form was drying out my liver and my body even more, specifically the kidneys. So I started cooking frozen blueberries down with a little lemon juice and a little cinnamon. And then when that was done, I would add a little honey. So eating things that are nourishing for the body. And when you eat in the summer and the fall, you really need to be doing nourishing foods at those times, because those are very dry and windy times, and that can affect the physiology of your body. So the fifth thing I wanted to talk about today was supplements. The one supplement that has helped me tremendously, I can speak for myself, is the Relaxed Wanderer, or Free and Relaxed pills. These were designed to help women with PMS and menopausal issues. They're not just for women. That's not just for women, though. It's used for men as well. But for me in particular, when I took that compound, which there's an American version called Bupleurum Calmative compound. And when I took that medication, I could handle stress. I could handle my kids. It also helped to prevent inflammation and that headache that I would get right before my period would start, or right when my period started. So I take that 1 to 2 weeks leading up to the period. And I, again, will link this down below. And the last supplement that I wanted to talk about is Valerian Root. Now, Valerian Root was used in the 1800s and probably before to treat epilepsy in general, specifically the excitatory type epilepsy. So when I notice I'm having more anxiety and insomnia and inability to sleep, I've used Valerian Root in the past, and I take that before bed so that when I wake up in the morning, it's still in my system and it prevents epilepsy for me. And I also have Valerian Root Essential Oil, which I dilute in a little 30 milliliter roller bottle, 5 drops, with a carrier oil. And when I'm starting to have a seizure, that's what my family will rub along this main vein to stop and slow and prevent seizure from becoming worse. So that's all I got for you today. If that was helpful, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, please ask me below. I hope you have a good day.